What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about The Last of Us Part 3, because this weekend we got some pretty big leaks about this next chapter of The Last of Us, a PlayStation 5 exclusive version of The Last of Us. And I want to discuss it because the sources on it are pretty dang airtight, so let's check it out. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm DreamcastGuy. I'm a big fan of this series, but let's see what's bubbling to the surface. Now, first and foremost, I want to take a look at some tweets here by Dom the Bomb. This guy is a big Naughty Dog YouTuber, talks a lot about all the craziness that's been happening with the TV show and the leaks and rumors and stuff. And now we're going to take a look at the source after this, but he does a good shorthand abbreviated version of this. The plot will apparently feature a group of scavengers surviving on the outskirts of a post-apocalyptic city crammed into a Victorian house that serves as their base. Naughty Dog is casting a diverse group of new characters. Now, here's the interesting part is that new characters. Some of these leaks make it sound like Ellie may be a very minor character. So far, there's no talk about Abby. Now, I've said this in the past, I'm a really big fan of The Last of Us. I actually love, the whole universe they've created is so fascinating. The whole cordyceps zombies and the way that the thing spread and the way that governments became so authoritarian. I think The Last of Us universe is brilliant, but I never really got won over by Abby. I've done like 7 playthroughs of The Last of Us Part 2, and I just never really got into her side of the story, her conflict. So the idea of Ellie being part of Last of Us Part 3, but Abby being cut, I'm kind of fine with, but let me go to this here. According to the leaker, ViewerAnon, who added onto today's rumor about The Last of Us Part 3, The Last of Us Part 3 begins filming and motion capture this year. Now, game development takes a lot of different speeds, different paces, different ideas of when the game is done, when it's feature complete, but if they're getting ready to do motion capture and filming, I think it's safe to assume that the game is pretty well written, it's pretty well established, it's fleshed out, it's probably got a lot of gameplay that already exists. Usually, they're writing the story pretty deep into game dev. So if they're about to start motion capture, I would bet hard money that this game is like 60% done, which is crazy because obviously Naughty Dog hasn't even really fully admitted that it exists. Ellie will have a major role in Part 3, at least as much as she did in The Last of Us Part 2. All of this sounds good, but I wanted to take a look at this article over on the Loadout, kind of breaking down the leaks because they know they're real, and we're going to just dive into the source here in a bit, but they're actually contesting that these leaks may be alluding to The Last of Us factions. Because keep in mind, we are still supposed to be getting that Last of Us online game. There was Factions Part 1 back with the original game, but there's always been talks of some sort of persistent online world with stories and cosmetic microtransactions and stuff. The Factions multiplayer is still coming out at some point. They have confirmed that. But here it is. The Last of Us Part 3 leaks sound like it might be The Last of Us Factions instead. Recent leaks surrounding the alleged existence of The Last of Us Part 3 dig into the game's story, but we think it could be the Factions multiplayer. Naughty Dog is keeping The Last of Us fans on their toes when it comes to the future of the franchise. The success of the HBO Last of Us TV show has generated more interest than ever into this best PS5 game. Now, the reputable leaker, DanielRPK, claims that he has information surrounding the plot of The Last of Us Part 3, though it sounds more fitting to the Factions. Okay, so scrolling down a bit here. This is it. These are the characters that apparently have been leaked. Naughty Dog is apparently looking to cast multiple roles for the game that may bring together a diverse cast of survivors. The roles are supposedly for the following characters. Lucas, who is the affable character, but develops a relationship with another young scavenger and will have to turn to show his dark side. Mason, a former soldier who must choose between his loyalty and the other characters in the group when Val gets put in charge. Val, who is allegedly the leader of the group. Urza, or I actually read that as like Ezra Miller. Oh no. Is that Ezra? Oh no, it's Ezra Miller who's going to start flashing us. An antagonist that seeks to take leadership from Valve. Gracis, I just don't know how to say that name. A female character that's said to be aged between 18 and 25. This isn't the first time that DanielRPK has claimed to have information surrounding the Last of Us franchise, with the leaker reporting in May that The Last of Us Part 3 is currently in the works. DanielRPK's track record primarily lies within the movie industry, but he has a very steady repertoire. Yeah, so this guy is known because he leaked a bunch of stuff about Spider-Man No Way Home, The Flash. All of it has been incredibly correct thus far. But the idea of this being The Last of Us Part 3 is the major part people are contesting. It's definitely real. These are definitely actual pieces of information. But we do know that The Last of Us factions, that The Last of Us multiplayer, I mean, it sounds like Ellie being the main character of the multiplayer could be cool. I think, honestly, it makes sense from a lore sense. All these characters are cool, but we still don't know anything other than these couple pieces of concept art. This is all we really know about it, is that it is going to be this big ongoing city, and we're going to creep around and assumedly look for supplies and fight for each other and try and battle other players. Like, in a lot of ways, I don't like the idea of like persistent online worlds. The older I get, the more like the idea of like always online experiences as a sequel to a single player experience. Very rarely does it turn out good. I mean, no offense, but look at something like Crash Team Rebel that just came out. That's the newest Crash Bandicoot game as an online multiplayer. It has like 20 concurrent players. The game is an absolute freaking dud. I don't love the idea of the Last of Us factions conceptually, but I'm definitely on board with it because I do want to just see more of The Last of Us. I want to see what kind of world they're going to build and how long it's going to live. A lot of games as a service titles don't exactly have the longest expiration date. It feels like a lot of these projects, if they're not immediately profitable, if they're not immediately charting just every trending page, companies pull the plug. Naughty Dog is different though, because obviously they have the immense funding of Sony. They have the backing. There's rumors that apparently Bungie, which obviously is now owned by Sony, is helping with this to some degree. They're maybe possibly helping it to come along and get fleshed out. Whatever form The Last of Us factions takes and The Last of Us Part 3 takes, I think this is definitely one of those games I'm most curious to see. I mean, really, the ending of The Last of Us Part 2 is just so dark and so dramatic. How much more into the future can we go? One of the leaks that's been going around for a while is that The Last of Us Part 3 wants to have a happy ending. That's actually what the leaks are saying, is that the goal is to actually save the universe. After all this time, they want to actually have the story end with a cure to the cordyceps. Are they really going to do it? Are they going to let Ellie have a happily ever after the darkest, most depressing game of all time? I guess we'll find out, but consider me curiously optimistic. What do you guys think, though? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. And go watch my video about Final Fantasy 16. That video popped the hell off, but you know what? It can always pop off more. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.